Yeah, everyone, thank you for taking time off from your busy day and joining another Future AGI webinar. I'm Nikhil, founder and CEO at Future AGI, and today we are diving into how GenAI is transforming marketing technology landscape. And I couldn't have asked for a better guest with us. So please welcome Bhavneet. She has been, AI and data-driven product leader who has built product from zero to one and scale them across industries. And she's also helping startup to accelerate in their growth and strategy and innovation. So, hey, Bhavneet, great to have you over here, first of all. Before we jump in, could you start with a quick introduction to our audience?
Thanks, Nikhil, for having me here, and good morning, good evening to everyone around the world. I have spent 2 decades, building B2B SaaS products. This is currently in the last 2.5, 3 years. I've gotten deeper into Gen AI space, and I've used Gen AI to actually build the ad tech platform, solving some of the marketing tech or marketing related problems and have been neck deep into data science and machine learning since 2014, solving some supply chain logistics problem, and then getting into Gen AI. So very happy to have this discussion with you, Nikhil, and the AGI
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, really great to have you. And we want to also listen what you have to share. It's a really interesting space, how things are changing really fast. And it's great to hear from you as a practitioner, and learn from you. So yeah,
Thank- All right, so we're going to touch upon marketing tech. Um, it's something that has been close to my heart for the last 2.5, 3 years, trying to understand this landscape. What is marketing tech? And within marketing tech, there is also advertising tech, which is ad tech space. And there are multiple problems that are being solved in the MarTech space. But today we'll jump a little bit on how Gen AI is kind of revolutionizing this space. Quick things that we'll go through, right? The landscape, the data intelligence part of it, and a little technicalities. I'll not overwhelm our audience with the technicalities to begin with.
yeah.
But let me touch upon the MarTech industry as such, right, and its growth. Last 1.5 year has seen tremendous growth. Talk about solutions. What I have listed here is 14,000 plus solutions. But the last number I read was around 15,000, 100
Oh,
something.
wow.
Um, and out of those, surprisingly, some 3,000 plus have either shut down or being consolidated, which means they were either acquired by larger marketing tech companies, or they had shut down because they were too small to um, you know continue to scale, or they wanted to solve a problem which maybe was no longer a problem in marketing tech, and the larger sharks were already solving it, right? So that happened right in the last 1 year. And then we saw a huge jump, and it has been my personal experience where customers constantly spoke about how they wanted to centralize their data. Think about brands like Vodafone or Pepsi, and so and so forth. 13, 14, 15 different markets, right? And every market um, requires a different story to be told. However, keeping their brand identity and personality true to itself, right? And then how do they bring all of this data, this knowledge, to then make the next set of campaigns and marketing campaigns that are not just equally impactful, but a lot more impactful, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? In the last 1.5, 2 years, we've all been struggling with reducing budgets, right? And marketing teams are bearing the brunt as well, right? So, how do you deliver the most with less money, less budget? The way they understood is leveraging data, right?
Yeah.
And bringing data in a central place where they have better insights, so they can draw better conclusions, right? And build very impactful marketing campaigns that gives them, you know, as I say, bang for the buck, right? So um, that seemed to be the theme in the last 1.5 years, right? A cohesive customer experience seemed to be very central, right? They said. Um, we are global people now, right? We are global human race, right? We travel so much that, my experience of, let's say, PepsiCo in my country versus, going into another country, how do you ensure that my experiences, either remain consistent and true to the brand's identity? So that seemed to change where, brands and marketers said, data is power, right? I know we in the technology world have been saying data is gold, data is gold, data is gold. Um, but I think they have truly moved towards, having tech stacks where they think about data a lot more, right? And then, again, being able to consolidate that data, drive that insights, gain those insights. And then coming the hyper personalization. Personalization is fine, then hyper personalization to a point where I have had queries from these large brands saying, um, we are constantly um, monitoring insights on social media platforms. We are monitoring um, chats and comments. Um, can you, use Gen AI to create a variation of an ad
Hmm.
that kind of meets the latest buzz, or something that's going really viral in the market,
Oh, wow.
gels with you know, the new generation. Now they didn't even the audience definition change from, saying we have audience from the age of 25 to 35, 35 to 45. A lot of brands stopped saying so, and they said, oh, we have Gen Zs to um, offer things to. We have millennials to offer things to. So now the terminology changed, right? So in this rise of AI, the this hyper personalization came down to a point of when were you born, what knowledge you have, what is it that you really believe in today, what is it that you're following, whether that's on news or you're shopping on Amazon or anything. um, they have the data, and they have this need to hyper personalize it now, anything that they communicate about their brands, right? So it's an evolving space, and it's a very exciting space at this point. Gen AI has made it
Correct.
so easy for marketers to, get this insight. What
Yeah.
has been your observation, Nikhil? I'd love to hear from you too.
I think I was just talking about like this fascination of hyper personalization because GenAI is there, so every marketer don't need to, optimize each and every ad, try it, understand the data, create the images. I think the new OpenAI model for image generation came, and we are saying that our customers are also tinkering with that. And now you don't have to actually, maybe you can for every person you can create a very personalized ads based on, as you said, like seeing what is commenting, what is liking, uh,
Absolutely.
just monitoring or various platform and just using that data to, generate all those things, right?
Yeah.
And that has been there for not just for example, for brands, maybe it's for B2B as well, for or
Yeah.
for every kind of product, right?
Absolutely.
For it's there. Even B2B companies, we have seen they are using this information to generate leads, right?
Absolutely.
And very, 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 personalized leads based on what the company is doing, even
Absolutely.
like how the employees are doing, and then, giving them emails, LinkedIn messages based on the start. So it's going really wild. So yeah, let's see where it goes.
And the pressure is very real because now it is not about personalizing it and thinking about the
Yes.
next campaign and then making a change to your creative, building a new variation and coming out with it like maybe tomorrow or day after. It's real time, right? So real time insights and then real time personalization, and using Gen AI to then create variations of your marketing campaign that kind of resonates with your target audience, right? And I will touch upon another element where even the audience definition has become so real time, right? It just
Yeah.
changes depending on, who's viewing your ads and who's, target of your marketing campaign. So interestingly, getting into the data intelligence side of it, which I said, a lot of customers, um, one, they were very protective of the data, but I still felt that they were more than willing to also hand it over to us as we were
Yes.
building these solutions to saying, if you could bring intelligence out of this data,
Yes.
right? And it started with very simple exercises that their teams did. So marketing teams would always have their insights team who will be responsible for all the data that they collate, right? So unifying that data, bringing insights from that data is the responsibility of that team, right? And then came this whole piece about enriching the data, right? Where are we getting these signals from? Which social media platforms? Where is the chatter happening? Oh, something really went viral in Twitter. Like, why did that happen? So on and so forth, right? So a holistic view of, your customer's journey, from maybe viewing an ad to clicking on a link like a CTA, call to action button, something that says go buy here or register here, and then tracking their entire journey till the website, till they land to your website or make a buy or do whatever, right? As an end user, all that has been traced, and customers are very happy to, give those if you can help them design campaigns and build campaigns, or even help them make um, huge budget decisions, right? I have this
Yes.
budget. Can I still save 20% out of it and still, achieve the output that I, would like to achieve, right? Um, this whole AI ML modeling, to my surprise, I spoke to a lot of marketers, and the kind of questions they asked me in terms of ML models. Like there were times when they spoke to me about CNNs, right?
Right.
Neural networks.
Right.
Can you explain to us and say, how did you do feature extraction? So I had to literally open an MIT research paper and showcase to them this is how it was done. Right. So it's very interesting that marketers are becoming so very aware. It's no longer a jargon for them when we say ML modeling or,
Yeah.
you just can't throw an AI jargon at them and think they'll stick, and that they won't ask a a question on top of it. It's no longer that, right? So very, very strict.
Yeah.
You know. And human in loop, which is something that we came across a lot as part of AI, which they said, is anybody providing a feedback? Is there a way we can provide a
Yes.
feedback? Your systems are predicting something, or your systems are saying design a campaign in this fashion, and this would stick with the Gen Zs, right? Very interesting case with LinkedIn we had, and they said we are trying to tell people that LinkedIn is the place where you can go and find the job that you really like, or on your first day of your job, figure out what are the different jargons being used in your office, so and so forth. And they're like, oh, but can I train this particular system, or can I give a feedback to the system saying this story needs a creative, supportive creative of so and so sort, or define a persona. um, and then then this thing of synthetic data came into picture, right? Synthetic
Yeah.
data has picked up huge,
A
right? So
lot.
with
Yeah.
respect to, yeah, so with respect to campaign designing, right now, brands are saying, why should I spend like 3 4 months of market research? They still do so for really large marketing campaigns which carry huge budgets. But for others, they say, can I use synthetic data and quickly generate survey results of certain personas that I have,
Yes.
and test whether this story is going to resonate with my audience or not, right?
Exactly.
Which is very interesting. And synthetic data is an outcome of AI, right? You can really simulate
Yeah.
and see, what the surveys of people with similar demographic details result into, and then you
Exactly.
scale it from like 100 users to maybe 250 to 300 to 350, right? So, um,
To
and I'm
add that,
sure,
like,
yeah,
I have seen like few marketers having maybe, so as you're saying, like, thousands of experiments running at the same time, right? And so basically that scales. You don't need to actually go and ask everyone. You just
absolutely.
have thousands of running. and you just pick those experiments, from A/B testing, which are, as you said, like having a closed loop. That closed loop
Absolutely.
actually might come from your CTRs, your metric that you want to have, and then you
Correct.
just keep on experiment which campaign just scales for you. So yeah, I think,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And it has, reduced the time to market immensely, right? And we have used a lot of this data to stitch together the ultimate outcome that you would want to be able to say what's working for your creative and what's not
yeah,
working for your creative, right? So, but then there's a lot of this data that they earlier didn't have centralized and could not, mapping a customer journey was a humongous task, right? And a huge dependency on their insights team and so on and so forth. Today, the brand managers felt absolutely independence. They felt the independence of being able to extract this data and map it out themselves, right? So that was a good learning, to know that marketers have moved
I think.
to a more controlled data. Yeah.
Think so. Someone in our audience have asked, like, what are the examples where you have seen GenAI have already made a huge difference?
Oh, as you said, Nikhil, A/B testing used to take 3 to 4 weeks. So they would create ad creatives, variations, and they will take the variations to the audience, to their target audience or their panel audience, so to say, and they will give a feedback of which variation did they really like, right? And so that's where a quick A/B test on ad tech platforms will tell you which variation to launch and which one not to basis geographical and demographical details, right? So that was one. And synthetic which we call as synthetic concept testing or synthetic data that gets generated. So if you have a concept on which you've designed your entire marketing campaign, you can just use a lot of synthetic data, survey data, and evaluate which concept is going to deliver what outcomes, and pick a concept which is marketing concept like a story or something, and ultimately spend your money on productionizing that concept rather than building a concept which may just not be received very well, right? So those are two big use cases that I have consistently seen, right?
Oh, wow.
Shall we move forward?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
Cool. All right. So, some of the architecture principles as we went about building this ad tech platform, the MarTech platform, right? We realized that for a centralized AI or a place where you could feed data into your AI models, constantly update them because markets are changing, people and their views are changing, information is in abundance, and wrong information is also in abundance, right? Just go in and people have experimented with, maybe Trump sitting and having coffee with, Diana or whoever, right? So they have just gone crazy. So there's information and there's an overload of information, right? So being able to centralize, this data seemed to be one of the big problems where most of our brands, that we spoke to said that, those real-time batch pipelines, or they would say, um, yeah, I mean, we don't know, we don't have enough data from the last campaign, but 6 months back, we consolidated campaigns. So they're still taking a lot of time to bring all of this. There are no automated pipelines created, data pipelines created. And even if they are, there's this whole process of data cleaning and enriching and all of that takes a lot of investment and bandwidth and people, right, to do that. So we figured that this for any AI to work, this is principally the piece that has to be put in place, right? It has to be uh, you know, thought through and intentionally put in place, right? Then came the AI agents, the very intelligent AI agents, right? The agentic
Yeah,
wave that we are going through. Very interestingly, uh, brand managers and performance marketers and all like, can I have agents, do programmatic optimization? right? Figure out um, which ad variation is getting the most clicks and impressions,
Yeah.
and and optimize for the ad spend, right? So again, that requires a lot of marketing knowledge and marketing workflows to be defined, right? One concern or one issue that we kept seeing with large brands is they have marketing teams spread across the world, like the globally, right? Being able to, so a marketing team running their function in Europe where had different workflows. They said, oh, you know what, this works for our market.
Yeah.
And the others would say, the USD would say, but this works for our market. And the Asian ones is like, oh, the US and the Europeans do not understand. Asia works very differently, right? So that's our workflow. So how do you bring all of these workflows, right, and build those learning loops within those workflows, so as they mature, as these workflows mature or they get better or they even get standardized, right, across markets, your AI really becomes more and more meaningful, right? um yeah,
I
Nikhil,
think one of the
yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the people that they're asking, so how do we validate our hypothesis? For example, as you mentioned, like A/B testing. So how do we design our testing and how do we validate that? How do we evaluate all those things, right? And how do we even come up with the benchmarks for, are these working correctly or not, or something like that?
Great question, great question. So a lot depends on one, who are you comparing yourself to? So a lot of our brands had a list of competitors that they would, compare themselves, and they had their own performance data, right? So now I know in the last 1 year you have run, let's say, 5 campaigns. I know in those campaigns which ads did very well, right? And they had a particular target audience. They were, published in a certain geography. So for that target audience, that geography, I have the data that tells me which ads have been doing well. There's a lot of metadata that we extracted from these ads, right? Which is the colors, the emotions, memorability, recall, ad recall, which is a huge metric in itself. As I mentioned, MIT had published a paper on what does visual recall really mean, right? And that's the model that we built, and we saw what makes an ad really memorable, right? So cognitive load, how persuasive the message was, what were the elements that actually made this ad a superstar ad, right? And what drove the performance. And you could create these benchmarks from all of these metrics for your competitors and see, for example, Dell would say, tell me how Lenovo's ads are doing and benchmark against Lenovo. So if Dell has a certain creative effectiveness is the score. If Dell has a certain creative effectiveness score, then how does it compare to Lenovo's, right? So
Hmm.
that's how we, kind of build that entire information and metadata actually for those ads. Um,
Got it.
Quickly moving to the next piece of low code, no code. It was very interesting that marketers wanted to be so hands-on, and wanted apps, the AI,
Oh yeah.
yeah, machine learning models to be configurable. Like, can I can I train it? I have my own data. Can I see the output and can I tweak, and so they want the control in their hands, right? Rather than a lot of jargons and theory being thrown at them, they want to be able to play with it and do things. So low code, no code, whether that was workflow automations or yeah, simple um, you know decision trees to be built, they really understood that the logic of it and wanted control of it. So that was a game changer from that perspective. Again, being centric, what has a marketing campaign got to do, if not to do with being customer centric, right? You are supposed to understand the customer journey, and bring in your marketing campaign where it matters, where it can influence the customer and their decision, right? So going from awareness to consideration to conversion, which is largely three marketing pillars where you make your customers aware of a certain service or a product, and then comes at the right moment messaging and telling the benefits of the product and services so they
Mm.
consider buying your product, right? And then final is your conversion. That's where you get the revenue from your
Yeah,
marketing efforts,
makes sense.
right? So cool. We'll move to the next piece, which is the biggest one and the biggest concern and the biggest friction,
Yeah.
right? Especially when we are talking to a lot of our customers on in Europe. They have very strict rules and they have defined very strict rules of AI. You've got to be very transparent with them in terms of how you trained your models. What data set did you use? How much of PII was actually put in place? How did you anonymize your data? Right? And how would you ensure that there is a consistency in the way it predicts or consistency in the way it builds these scores? Very interestingly, a simple thing is computer vision, right? Would it sometime identify a logo, a brand's logo in one of the ads and completely miss in the others, right?
Yeah.
The size to human eye would look like the brand logo size is good enough, but it'll do its own calculation and will just so there was so many inconsistencies where marketers would get a little paranoid, right?
Oh.
In terms of how these models are being trained and on what basis do they respond, um, and the whole governance piece, as I said, right? How do you trace this data? Where is it coming from? So if we for our ad recall model, if we took publicly available data set,
Hmm.
we had to give them the links where even they could download that publicly available data sets. And they had literally asked, which images did you actually use to train your model?
Oh, okay.
So we had to open up our database, show them that these are, the brands and, so Meta, Facebook ad library, shares, openly brands and, their ads because, they want to inculcate, a fair way of competition, right? And learning from each other's. So marketers and advertisers learn from each other. So there's so much of data that's available there. So they want to be able to, trace, and they're like, oh, so which version of the model you are in? When was the last time you benchmarked? When was the last time you refreshed it with data? So we have to have like all of that checks and balances in place, and only then, a product that's powered by GenAI, or even from that perspective, any machine learning model would go through, right? Again, from a responsible perspective, that's our first-hand experience of GPT 4.0, where it started to hallucinate, where it's started to give biases. A very simple example: one of our customers, a cosmetics giant, and the moment you talk about a concept on which you are going to design a campaign, and you say foundation, it starts with, oh, she is a dark skinned Asian who is, why is it she? I've seen men doing such great Instagram posts and reels about how to use foundation. So why it did not start with men using foundation, right? Why not?
Yeah.
Why always women?
Yeah.
So um that's pretty interesting, and that's something that kept us on our toes.
Yeah. So how do we even like, it's one of the things that you mentioned, having, images. So let's say having where this data, the models have been trained from, where the inspiration has been taken care of. So that seems very, very hard task, right? To take that out. Okay, and when you're predicting, when you're suggesting something out there, it's very fascinating how few of these things, for example, responsive AI are means when you have been designing all the solutions, how do you embedded all these things so that marketers have more confidence, in the AI while driving all these things? Maybe you can share a few
So
instances.
absolutely. So where did we, so the question they would ask is, where did we get these images to train our model? Where did I get these ads and video ads and stuff to train, right? And we have to give them the sources, and the sources largely come from public sources, right? So it's YouTube and Facebook ad library and so on and so forth. There are times that we have gone in and said, this is how you could download a YouTube video, right? And that's how, we get the MP4 file, right? And that's how we then put it into our systems, and we have a data labeling team, a data tagging team who would sit down and label these images and say, oh, I found a human in this particular image, and the human was smiling, so we can detect emotions better, so and so, right? Now there's Gen AI. It has made it so easy. I had literally, I've come down from 31 models to 18 models because I could just get rid of all of those sentiment and emotion and all of those
Yeah.
models that took forever for us to train. But GenAI does that for us, right? So yes, being able to trace every small image or even a video ad that we have used to train the model, and be able to say, where did it really come from? Who gave it to us, right? So
Yeah.
that's something that we have to consciously deal with.
And how, maybe, so we have a few questions, maybe we can start from there. So how these ROIs even, like, so I think I remember that in 2020, like last year, it was all about, having a lot of spending on AI.
Yeah.
And now if you're talking to all these, CXOs, they're like talking about, okay, what is the ROI of this investment that I have? Right.
Yes.
So how do we even track these ROI, ROIs that we have done in AI? Because these models also cost a lot, right?
They
And
do. Yeah.
when you are, let's say, hyper personalizing them, as we talked about, for each of the ads, that's the cost might go up a lot,
Right.
right? So how these, ROI from this AI is connected back, the investment in the AI is connected back in terms of, and then be justified, or it's long-term game where it might be justified a little later, or because right now it might be this experimentation. So yeah.
So some of the gains are, seen pretty quickly from the point of, it's a competitive market. I have a story, and my competitor sort of looks at that and brings out another counter story to it, maybe, right? And that's very quick. These advertisements are coming up really quick in response to your competition, right? How, if you are going to go to the traditional way of, I am, storyboarding, putting a concept in place, going to my panel audience, checking whether or not they like the idea, and then launching something, right? That cycle has reduced, and therefore that cost also has reduced, right? So when we look at the money spent, either you're looking to optimize the money spent, or you're looking at maybe for that amount of money spent, making more money, right? So
Yeah.
maybe 2xing the sales and the revenue, right? That's where agentic AI and those elements come into place, where they programmatically optimize, right? So these agents take autonomous decisions on which ads should be pushed further, and the others should be maybe not pushed enough, right? Not enough
Yeah.
money has to be put onto those, right? So some of the gains are quick. A/B testing, as I said, used to take 3 to 4 weeks, right? Today it is done, in a matter of 2 or 3 clicks. That's it,
Yeah.
done. You get an idea of whether you should be launching this variation versus the other. Synthetic concept testing, the whole concept testing phase itself is sometimes 3 to 6 months, right? Imagine the amount of human resources, people, and target audience or panel audience hiring and retention and all of that to kind of verify just one concept takes. Now the concept validation happens much sooner. I have 10 stories, I have 10 concepts. Machine tells me here are the three top concepts. Now those
Yeah.
are the only three I need to go and test with my target audience. And boom, I have one concept, one big concept that I will launch my campaign. So
Yeah.
those are quick wins that are being seen, right?
Awesome. I think one of the things as well, so you have multiple channels to have your ads spent on, right? So have you also seen like how I can use AI to even optimize my marketing budget and which channel to do? Right. So basically, let's say I have five marketing channel. Uh,
Right.
can I use AI to even? So I think someone asked this question. So how can I
Yeah.
have this? So have you seen use cases or how marketers are doing that?
Yes, so this is that's the traditional marketing mix that you define, right? How much you
Yes.
do, push email, how much do you push social media, but which one, like, is the TikTok one the right one for you, or is it Twitter? Is it, Meta? Is it Insta? Which one is the right one? Like for a lot of B2B brands, LinkedIn works just fine for them, right? And so again, marketing mix is something that we have brought into the fold of being able to extract meta information from these ads, combine them to the performance of these ads, like CTR, the clicks, impressions, and say what creative elements are pushing the increase in CTR, clicks, and impressions of the ad, and then looking at which platforms are they doing really, really well. So there are certain platforms that will ask you to optimize best on your ad copy text messaging. There are some platforms, Instagram and so, which focus a lot on visuals. So how's your cognitive load? Is so again in music, you go a little deeper into the genre and the mood it generates, the emotion it creates, right? The text and all of that. So you go into the softer side, right? And there are certain LinkedIn and all, messaging is really key. Messaging is heavy, right? So that's where your text should be persuasive, it should be readable. So those elements are identified very quickly, and you can actually optimize your ads as per that particular channel, right?
Yeah.
And launch according, as I said, agentic AI kind of autonomously takes decisions on, all right, this ad is really not working really well on Twitter, right? Let me reduce my spending on Twitter and maybe push a little bit more on Meta. So
Yeah.
I hope that
I
answers.
think, yeah. I think one of the things is like our viewer is asking is since the time cycle to produce these ads have decreased, so maybe as you mentioned that biases, one of the example that you showed. So if you ask for you to generate an ad, it's just generating for women for makeups for a makeup brand, right?
Hmm.
So how do you identify all these dark patterns and maybe racial profiling, cultural biases because as you said, right, for a Coca-Cola ad, it needs to be personalized for different markets. So how
Yes.
do we even maintain that it doesn't get racial biases, cultural biases which are up to for that region, and how even we can stop that, do you have any tooling for that?
So great question. Actually, this is such an it is such an active um need and something that you need to put into practice while you set up GenAI powered platforms and solutions, that you are selling. This is a core part where, and it is, you're not going to solve this, you're not going to catch these patterns on day one. It is a constant work in progress. And as I said, human in loop, right? That's the key. I have to keep finding, where is it going wrong? Being able to provide that feedback, put the guardrail in and say, hey, take this as a context. The context, you have to keep telling, the machine, the context it has to change. Just because it's a makeup brand doesn't mean the context always remains with, only women use makeup, right? So that has to be constantly kind of checked with, right? For example, um, very interestingly, for LinkedIn, as I said, right, LinkedIn is everywhere, and we were trying to see how we can bring Asians and Black Americans and whites and all of those folks, and see how the same story would resonate. So we created personas, a very different persona with
Yes.
absolute racial information, their education as well, because we realized that that concept that we were testing for LinkedIn, it kept saying, oh, you're an MBA pass out. You're so smart. You will understand any jargon, no matter which company you go in. So it always assumed that you are a Stanford or a Harvard pass MBA who will actually be going on LinkedIn and using LinkedIn as a
Yeah.
product. And the LinkedIn team said, no, it is not just for those. It's for everybody, right? Even it's for students, right? Um,
Yeah.
so, which is very interesting that you have to constantly build those personas and then
Mm.
train the AI to think that, hey, now this is this person looking at this data, or looking at this advertisement, looking at this message, will it convince them? Will it not convince them? Right. So, constantly, so you never sleep, right? When it comes to transparency and removing biases and, putting the right governance in place.
Makes sense. So you'll also be showing a demo of how your live application to generate ad campaign using generative AI, and how you can monitor all this. So a few of the
Let's
questions
get
that
into
people
there.
are asking will get solved. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, let's get there. And I think we have just touched upon everything that I was about to even talk about in terms of how do I, optimize my CTRs and, ensure that because
Yeah.
every marketer spoke to us and said, "Oh, we know what's going right. Oh, we know that our story is on point, but my sales numbers are not the same." So everything's going great with my concept and creatives and all of that. And so if everything's going great there, why is your sales still so low? Right? Why is the conversion not happening really? Right? And that's where we build this whole predictive intelligence of being able to say, if
Yes.
your ad is designed in certain way, if it has this kind of metadata, if it has this kind of, so we designed a creative effectiveness score. I know a lot of you marketers who are on this call, it's this at the back of your hand what creative effectiveness score is. Keynes Leon's have its own creative effectiveness ladder. Nielsen says gives a definition of what creative effectiveness is. Blah blah. Everybody like has a definition, and we use that definition to build that score and say, okay, if your score is in a certain range, your conversions will be great, or your ultimately sales revenue would be great. So tying sales to your marketing campaigns, your CTRs, clicks, and impressions, those metrics is really key. So that's where we kind of deliver that solution.
I think one of the things this demo that will share after this call, so you guys can download and play with it. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, just share my whole desktop. So as you were talking about like the power of GenAI, right? So this is one of the things that you can have over here. So this is actually you can for this for this whole GenAI application, you can fill bunch of details. For example, okay, this was the product name that I have, for example, EcoSmart bottle, the product category, the product description that I want to have, the key feature that my product I want to show, the maybe the price positioning, also the information that I want to give from my because that also helps me a lot, the unique selling point, because that's how we position our product. So and also the demographic information for my basically for which audience I want to show this because that also like creates a vibe in terms of my whole brand, the coloring, the text, the words that we use, kind of so I can describe it over the all things over here and then also give my, basically campaign objectives. So maybe I want to have is awareness, conversion, retention, engagement. Maybe I have two, three things in my mind, right? And then I can have through the platform because every platform will have each in its own, unit standards of how it needs to show it. And then I can define my budget range for my, let's say, for my ad. And then I can just like hit create. So I've just ran it over there. So what it does it, it's create me all the ads. For example, the headline and tag. So if you can see the head rate smart, live green, eco smart bottle. So this is all been generated by AI by just that description that I showed, right? And it generates me a tagline for me as well. And one of the things that we have also seen a lot of companies struggle with is like generating a lot of variants of the same ad, and then they doing which ads will work. Basically, as we were mentioning about A/B testing, so you can generate a lot of variants about that ad, what the text it looked like. We haven't integrated image, but like image might also get generated similarly. So
So,
variations
so how
of
much of so much of help we bring to copywriters, right? And um, now
yeah,
copywriters are really liking the fact that we get the juices running in their brain in terms of, hey, you could say it this way as well, you could say it this way as well, right? So
yeah.
it's more assistive in nature, right? For copywriters as well. Brilliant.
If you see it, it has generated all like carbon footprints points as well, and has generated
Fantastic.
hashtags as well,
Right.
based on
And
the data.
hashtags as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so generated all bunch of things for me. Maybe one of the things is like brand guidelines, brand elements that I want to have, coloring. Basically, I've seen teams spending a lot of time on this. So exactly everything. Yeah, like brand psychology, like professional and trustworthy color schema. Explaining me also that, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
like explainability,
Yeah.
why we want something, the which color maybe we want to have it over there. So generating all sort of stuff, product
And brand
description.
personality and brand character and all of that is such a big deal. Like, companies as they grow
Yeah,
bigger and larger in multiple markets, they feel like their brand personality gets diluted in the way the ads are designed, right? So
yeah,
they want to make sure their brand identity is consistent and standard across multiple markets. And so, this is such a great way of just quickly running this and seeing if, your creative is on point, right? And it's a great checkpoint, right?
exactly. So just imagine like teams spending a lot of time researching, like all sort of stuff, coming, brainstorming. But just imagine starting from here or having few ads, just having a click and just showing everything that I can run. And summary recommendations as well. I think all this, but the hardest part, as you mentioned, like how do I make it responsible? How do I connect my feedback back from this, right? Because oh yeah, I can generate, let's say, hundreds of ad campaigns, but which one? So basically, for my variation for my ad copy, which one is working good? Which it doesn't have, let's say, biases for my data, So I need to have all those monitoring, evaluation as well into the picture. So that's where you could connect all this with directly with Future AGI platform. So this is one of the all the things that you see over here. This is one of the agent that we created, and what all ChatGPT calls worded directly will come over here. So basically, it was under the hood, it was an agent. We were doing few ChatGPT calls, thinking and interpreting what you're trying to say, what you're not trying to say. So yeah,
Yes.
and and for example, so for example, let's say take this up. For example, this for this case, it showed me for factual. So I just ran one of this, evals over here. Probably all the evals that you think for biases, for gender equality. You can add all those evaluation directly over here, and then you can see the results directly how it is working. So let me just show the details why I think some factual accuracy was not there and will generate me an explanation as well that why I thought that this things were generated and why not, so that I can and it helps even the marketers getting a sense and clarity. Okay, you know what, these things are working in my production and not. Uh, and then I can actually connect this back to my ad performance, right? So I know which prompts, which agents are actually working. For example, you mentioned like now marketers want to have no code tools, right? They want to love to experiment with their prompts, what to write and everything. Then they can connect back to their, let's say, demographics, and then experiment on that. So I can actually get this, for example, directly to my dashboard. So for example, this is a no code thing on our platform. So this was product recommendation based on what user was asking,
Hmm.
right? So these were the user queries that I had on the platform, and
Hmm.
maybe And then whatever the user is asking on my search, I want to have product recommendation, hyper personalization based on what user is asking for me and then searching.
Exactly.
So maybe I'm showing three different products, but are those products correct according to me or not? And what are the criteria that I need to have? So on the platform itself, you can define all those criterias. You can, experiment with that directly itself. So you can run your prompts, experiments directly itself. So you can see, which A/B test, and you can do A/B testing over here itself. So which is working better for you or not, and then quickly make that live. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
See how much easiness it kind of delivers, but this constant endeavor to make sure that the AI doesn't hallucinate and doesn't give us insights that puts us at a different path. So
Exactly. And it's also actually, have less on human in the loop because I have one level of check. I obviously need some level of human in the loop because
absolutely,
I cannot take out the human knowledge that they will have, but it
yeah.
takes my A/B testing really, really, really fast, which I needs to be.
Yeah, and we still need creators, and we need still need the human creative
Yes.
mind, right,
Yes.
to continue to build better, creatives and ads and the stories that human mind can think of. I think AGI is still some, I think I can't say few years, but I would say few months away with the way AI is moving forward so quickly. But yeah, artificial general intelligence might just be a few months away, but we would always need a human intelligence and human creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I think with that, I think we are almost, at the close of our session. I think let me just quickly check if we have certain Q&A. Just give me a second.
There are
So
quite a
what's the
few.
easiest way to maybe measure customer satisfaction?
Again, when we think about customer satisfaction, I think more than satisfaction, we would want to know whether or not we have met our marketing objective. If the objective was awareness, now do I really know your product, right?
Yeah,
Have I ever even interacted with any of your ads? And if uh, Facebook runs constantly run these Facebook and YouTube, they constantly run these surveys and say ask the user, do you remember having seen an ad for a floor cleaner? Can you pick up the brands, that sell for floor cleaners that for which you would have seen it, right? So there's a lot of recallability. So there are ways you can test for awareness. There are ways you can test for consideration. So customer satisfaction, well, nobody really truly get satisfied through a marketing campaign or an ad. They
yeah,
generally get delighted. They remember your ad. And if they remember and they are delighted or they are emotionally connected to your ad, most probably if they are shopping online or going into or walking into a store, they're going to pick up your product. They're just simply going to use it because we are all emotional human beings. All our buy decisions and shopping decisions are emotionally
yeah,
driven, right? So if you have a great story to tell and my need is connected, my emotion is connected to it, I'll go buy that, right? So um keeping in mind that not every marketing campaign would lead into conversion because that was not the objective, but if it was awareness, there are multiple tools for you to figure out if that was. I'll give a quick example of using pure GenAI to create ad, and Coca-Cola did that last December for Christmas, and through simple social listening tools, um, we quickly realized that it did really, really bad. Right? Audience hated it. They were like, why would on the earth would you not spend a penny in creating a true ad which is meaningful and can connect emotionally, and you just piece together a bunch of images, and so still there is where it was a great experiment, and I will give kudos to Coca-Cola for being so bold to go out and do an experimentation and then hear their customers and say, GenAI is great. Using AI to generate all of these ads is great, but we need human touch. Can we have human touch?
Yeah.
And that's where all of these social media platforms have certain very basic rules of saying, show a human in your ad using your product. That's a basic rule, right? They put in
Yeah.
place. So, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing insight. I think one of the question is how would ad tech change with RTB integrated Gen AI factors?
How would ad tech change?
Yeah, ad tech change with RTB integrating Gen AI factors.
Ah. So again, um, Gen AI, now let's think about Gen AI as something that expedites, that quickly provides you insights and answers, that otherwise would take a lot of time for you to go to, a panel audience and get that answers in. Um, the other way is where, as I said, right, lot of social listening to even build new concepts, right? Noble concepts and ideas that, where, novel ideas will come into place where they'll say, oh, this is original or this is different. This is something new, right? So I think a lot of that powering of creatives that will be generated, variations that get generated. It's wonderful. Like for one of the brands, what we did was since they were selling in Asia, we could just very quickly generate a variation where they would show an Asian woman or an Asian man using their product, right? Just 2 or 3 clicks, bam, right? I have a variation now ready for it to be launched in the Asia market. Now I have another, using a French guy, something created for the European or the French market, right? So and so forth. So that kind of brought in a lot of speed to, um, and speed with accuracies, right? Where the designers could go and just make some small tweaks to the design and then, they're ready to launch an ad. And this, all that we are talking really is in the digital ad space,
Yeah.
right? It's a huge impact on the digital ad space. Your TV ads still take the same path of, long production times and, um, ad films and so on and so forth. Right? So,
Amazing. I think we still have a lot of answer, but we are almost into the time. So it was great having you over here, Bhavneet. Thank you for sparing the time and taking out time from a busy schedule. Really great to have you. And frankly, this was one of the best webinar that we had. Very interactive. The audience was great. The kind of things that you shared were very, industry insights and how marketers can share, use an AI. And we are also like they're getting hands-on, like more and more they want to use it and try it. Those insights were great. Thank you, Bhavneet, for spending time with us over here.
thank you, Nikhil, for having me. And it was an interesting conversation. Thank you so much. The demo made so much sense and brought everything together. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. I think before we close, so just want to announce that we also have we just announced a startup program because Gen AI building this Gen AI, in startups, we need to have perfect AI, have trustworthiness, less biases and everything, monitor them, continuously. But sometimes startups doesn't do that because they have lots of things to do. So we want to support them in their journey. So we're giving free access with credits. So if any of if you're building Gen AI in marketing, or if your friends are working, creating something in Gen AI very interesting, so feel free to share them this. Yeah. I think, Bhavni, thanks a lot again for having over here. Great to have you over here. Thank you guys. We'll be back after some time with another webinar. Thank you. Stay tuned. Thank you
Thank you.
guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.